All right, and I am joined this evening by Randall Cottle from River Mountain Immigration. Thanks so much for taking time to speak with us.
Of course, you're very welcome, Jessica.
So, in reference to this case that we're talking about right now, taking place in Missoula, happened in Helena, is this specific case reflective of what we're seeing all across the country right now?
Yes, it is reflective of ICE going after people of color, primarily Latinos, even though they have no warrant, no probable cause. Just the fact that they're brown is getting ICE activity all across the country.
With this case in Helena, one partner is a U.S. citizen. Christopher Martinez is not. What are the challenges that you have seen in cases like this?
So, for spouses of US citizens, you have to have a legal entry in order to be able to apply for your green card, absent really narrow circumstances. So, if he came across the border illegally, even though he's married to a US citizen, he cannot apply for a green card in the US. So, that's a major challenge for people that came across the border without inspection.
What unique challenges did Montana present when you took on immigration cases right here in Montana, rural state? What were some of the unique challenges that you saw in Montana?
So there's no immigration court in Montana, so I focus primarily on family-based immigration. There's only one immigration office there in Helena, with just a handful of officers, and it's not a very busy office. So, but a lot more military cases, people in the military
Okay.
that meet U.S. citizens, fiance, spouses, their parents. So did a lot of representation of the military. And then the fact that when I got there, I was only the fourth immigration attorney in the whole state of Montana.
Wow. Would you say that that there's a bigger need now in 2025?
There is. So I moved there in 2017, and there definitely was a need. I was kind of laying low for a while, and then people discovered I was there. But there's definitely more immigrants, Latinos, the construction industry that's booming in certain parts of Montana. So there's definitely more immigrants in Montana now.
Perfect. In Montana, we often hear people ask, why do more people not attempt to come here to the U.S. legally and just do it the right way? As an immigration attorney, what are those challenges that they're facing? What would you say to people who are asking that question?
That there is no right way, there is no legal pathway for 95% of immigrants that want to come here. So that there is no, it's not back during the Ellis Island days when people could just get on a boat and show up at Ellis Island and then immigrate here. There is no path. And Congress, I've been practicing for 27 years, and I keep hoping Congress will fix our immigration system. But in the 27 years I've been practicing, they have not. And so there is no legal way for most people.
We are hearing about so many ICE arrests across the country right now, but in your experience, has this been happening for quite a while, maybe just under the radar without media attention or public attention? Are we truly seeing a spike in activity, especially here in Montana?
We're truly seeing a spike in ICE activity. They are arresting people that are showing up for their hearings in immigration court, not in Montana because there's no immigration court, but and they are arresting people that are reporting, that have been reporting for years to ICE. ICE puts them on a schedule where they report, tell ICE what they're doing, but now they're being detained and removed. ICE is out in communities just going after people, and people, they don't have warrants and they don't have any reason to be questioning people, but they are. And, in LA, we've seen some US citizens be detained before ICE releases them. So it's definitely a massive spike in ICE activity, thanks to our current administration that views immigrants as hostile for some reason.
You said there's no immigration court here in Montana. So, with a case like this, what are the next steps as far as where these things have to be taken since there is no immigration court here in Montana?
So most of the removal cases, deportation cases, go to Portland, Oregon, the immigration court there. There was a time when they went to Salt Lake City, but now most of them go to Portland. And so, but if ICE takes Mr. Martinez or anyone to a detention facility it could be anywhere in the US. And so there's one in Louisiana that's remote. There's one immigration attorney that's within like 3 hours of there. So it depends on where they end up detaining him in the immigration court that's closest to that detention facility.
Moving on with my questions. What are the primary legal pathways available for a Mexican citizen to obtain U.S. citizenship?
So if they are married to a US citizen and they are in Mexico, they can go through a multiple step process while they're in Mexico to get their legal permanent residence. If they're here, they have to have legally come in legally, like on a visa, even if they overstay. But if they came in legally and they're married to a US citizen, they can apply for a green card. If they're not married yet and they have a US citizen fiance and they're still in Mexico, they can get a fiance visa, which takes about a year right now, and then come in on the fiance visa and then have 90 days to get married. That's the awful TV show, 90 Day Fiance. So, um,
Okay.
there, if you're a parent of a US citizen, adult US citizen, your adult child over 21 can petition for you. And if you're a minor child of a US citizen, then your parent can petition for you. But other relatives, it's next to impossible. Siblings, technically, you can petition for siblings in other countries. The backlog is 20 plus years before they'll get here. So,
Wow. Okay. Okay. In specific to this Martinez case, some cultures, marriage is different, obviously. I know there's common law marriage and there's legally married. We're unsure right now as far as that status goes. But if somebody is common law married, does that change how this process works? I would imagine so if they're not legally bound with a marriage license here in the US.
yeah, so the marriage has to be valid in the jurisdiction where the marriage takes place
Okay.
in order for them to go through US immigration as a spouse.
Gotcha.
So they're in the US, so they would have to be legally married, even though um, Montana recognizes common law marriage, but USCIS would want them to actually be legally married.
Okay, good to know. So, not talking marriage, just individual people, how long does the process typically take from obtaining legal residency to becoming a naturalized citizen?
If you get your legal permanent residency, green card is just evidence that you're a US legal permanent resident. Um, Through marriage, it's 3 years before you're eligible for citizenship. If you get your green card through employment or through asylum, or some other way besides marriage, another relative, then it's 5 years. After 5 years, you're eligible for US citizenship.
Okay. What are the most common challenges or delays that applicants face during this process?
So Montana's immigration office is awesome and quick. So most cases are getting to interview there in like 6 months, maybe
Wow.
sometimes less, sometimes a little more, but they're quick. If you're in San Francisco, you're probably going to be waiting a year and a half to get to interview. So it depends on the local office you're going to be interviewed at for green cards. Most local offices are quick at citizenship interviews, like 3 to 4 months.
Okay.
It's usually the officer's favorite part of their job is creating new U.S. citizens. So they're pretty quick at getting to citizenship interviews. We know this administration has actually actively told USCIS to slow down on all cases. So we're going to see probably a massive slowdown over the next 3 years, unfortunately. So that's a challenge. We're seeing more requests for evidence. So you file, and then USCIS sends you request, often for stuff you've already submitted or stuff that isn't relevant. But we're seeing an increase in that, which we saw under the last Trump administration as well.
Okay.
So
If someone has previously been removed from the US after being in the country illegally, how would this impact their application to become a US citizen?
So if you are removed, you are subject to a 10-year bar, or even if you come in cross the border illegally and you leave, you also trigger a 10-year bar to reentry. If you come back a second time illegally, it's a permanent bar to any immigration benefits. So, so they have to wait their 10 years in Mexico or whatever country outside the US before they're eligible for anything. But realistically, if you're deported, you're probably never going to be able to get any legal status in the US, absent narrow circumstances. But
So, in cases where we are seeing people deported multiple times over and over and over, basically what you're saying is your chances of coming in here and becoming a legal US citizen or applying for dual citizenship are zero to none.
right, so the Trump administration telling people just leave voluntarily and then you can come back legally at some point is just a blatant lie. They're not ever going to be able to come back.
Okay. Are there any special considerations or requirements that apply specifically to Mexican nationals compared to other immigrants?
Not that I can think
All,
of
all
off the top
countries
of my
are
head. It's
equal. Okay.
Is there something that you're thinking of?
No, no, I just didn't know if there was certain things based upon certain countries and people coming in.
Well, if you're processing through the U.S. Embassy in Ciudad Juarez, they're hardcore at looking at tattoos for gang affiliations.
Okay.
So that's something you don't see at other embassies around the world. Focus on tattoos and potential gang affiliations. So, but
Right, right.
other than that, um,
No.
yeah, the immigration system is set up the same for people from. There's different backlogs for other like siblings, for example, or adult, children. The backlogs are different depending on the country.
Okay. Well, that's good information. My next question would be, what financial costs or fees should applicants be prepared for during the process?
So, green card fees are about $2,200 to U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. Plus, if you use an attorney, you've got the attorney fees, which can vary dramatically depending on the attorney. So I would say, well, 2,200 if you're trying to do it yourself, which is probably dangerous in a lot of instances. Some are straightforward, but some people may think they have a straightforward case, but it's not really. And then plus attorney's fees, so they should call several attorneys, see who they feel comfortable with, get the different fees, and go from there.
Can you just elaborate a little bit more on how that would possibly be dangerous for someone to just try to do it themselves? I mean, I would imagine if you do it one time, you get denied, you got to do it again. It's $2,200 every time. Is that right? So why it might be more beneficial to go through a lawyer? What makes that a dangerous scenario?
Because the lawyer can ask you questions to see if there's something that's going to either get you denied or possibly get you deported. So, say you came in with your parents as a kid, and your parents may have been put into removal proceedings. So you were actually in removal proceedings too, but you're a kid, so you didn't know. Your parents didn't tell you. So there's a removal order out there for you from when you were a kid, and you don't know about it because your parents never told you about it. So that you're going to probably get detained at interview and then removed. So that's something the immigration attorney could check on fairly easily. Um, Minor criminal issues are problematic for immigration. So at the beginning of this year, the first bill that Trump signed was a bill making shoplifting basically a major issue, preventing you from immigration benefits.
Okay.
So Lakin Riley Act, I believe it's called. So things like that you may not know, or you may think like you gotta here in Montana. I had to warn clients about smoking pot and hunting because even though smoking pot's legal in 36 states, it's still a federal crime and it still prevents you from getting any immigration benefits. And
Okay.
then hunting, you may get a ticket for a hunting violation and you just pay the ticket and you're like, oh, that's no big deal. Well, it's a firearms violation, which is also majorly problematic for immigration purposes.
Very good points. I don't think that's something that's at the top of anyone's mind. Um, how does the U.S. government assess good moral character when they are evaluating a citizenship application? And you touched a little bit upon this with criminal backgrounds, but how do they assess that?
Yeah, so it would be primarily crimes that don't make you inadmissible. So, like for a green card, but will prevent you from getting citizenship if it's within the last 5 years. So the primary one is a DUI. That's the one, that's a lot of people unfortunately get DUIs. And in Montana, typically you'll get a year of probation. So say you're close to your 5 years where you can file for citizenship, you get a DUI, you're going to then have to do that year of probation plus 5 years before you're eligible again for citizenship.
Okay.
Because it's a good moral character. They see it as bad moral character that you got a DUI. So
Gotcha. Okay.
that's the primary one, but yeah, there's other things that could come up that other minor criminal issues. Yeah.
Right. That's what you see probably most often. What types of documentation and evidence are essential for proving eligibility?
For citizenship or
Yes.
um, for citizenship, you have that good moral character requirement. You have to show you haven't abandoned your legal permanent residence. So if you leave the US for more than a year without a reentry permit, um, you've abandoned your legal permanent residence. There's a physical presence requirement. So you have to be physically inside the US at least half of the prior 3 or 5 years eligibility period. So if you've been outside the US a lot, that's problematic. Some offices will deny you if you've been outside the US more than 6 months, um, as not meeting the requirements for citizenship. It just depends on the local office. You have to do the history and civics test, but they give you the 100 questions and answers. They only ask you 10 at interview, and you only have to get 6 right. So a D's passing. So
Okay.
that's not too hard. I've only seen one person fail in my 27 years. So
Oh, okay. Well, my last question for you, Randall, is what advice would you give to someone just starting out in the process of trying to become a U.S. citizen to avoid mistakes or misunderstandings? And in this case, I'm referring to just an individual, maybe someone who is not tied to any family.
yeah, so I think a lot of people don't understand is you have to get U.S. legal permanent residence first, your green card, there's no like immediate jump to citizenship unless you join the military and you get naturalized after basic training. That's like the only immediate citizenship.
Okay.
Um, so I'm sorry, what was it?
No, you're good. You're good. What advice would you give to someone who is just beginning the process so that they can avoid mistakes or misunderstandings and, as some people would refer to it, do it the right way?
So obviously I'm biased, but you should always at least set up a consultation with an immigration attorney to go through your history and background and whether you're eligible for anything. Some people go to notarios because in some countries, notarios are attorneys and they don't know any better, and notarios give them bad advice or charge them like more than an attorney would charge to file something they're not eligible for. So do that. Make sure that they know their criminal history. A lot of people suppress, like if they were only arrested once for something a while back, they suppress that and they don't really remember it, but pull any criminal records you have, just to make sure that you're going to be eligible. Do a detailed outline of your immigration history that like when you came in, how you came into the U.S. Do you have any prior encounters with either Border Patrol or USCIS, or ICE, 3 different immigration agencies? So,
Okay. Well, thank you so much. This is super helpful information, and I really appreciate you taking the time to talk.
oh, you're welcome, Jessica. Thanks. Have a great day.